few weeks ago we filmed a video on a simple bow drill set, and in that video we talked about possum mentality, which is basically seizing the opportunities and materials as they present themselves, because where you're going, those opportunities and materials might not be there. So take advantage of them as you come across them. In that video we went ahead and constructed a simple bow drill set and ultimately produced an ember. So I thought today, why not use that same mindset and do another fire by friction video or a bow drill set utilizing only one resource, the North American cottonwood. Okay, looking across this wash bed, it's pretty dry and desolate compared to what you're used to seeing on my videos. But I'm looking for a cottonwood tree. If you look in the center of the screen, there's one right there, and that's where we're going. Now keep in mind there's several different species of cottonwoods that are native in North America, Europe, and Western Asia. But the one thing about cottonwoods is that they're deciduous trees, meaning that they lose their leaves usually in the fall or winter. They can grow about 50 to 80 feet in height, and they're easily recognizable by the deep fissured bark, usually gray in color, and their diamond or heart-shaped leaves. Now keep in mind, that's very important to identify cottonwoods by the exterior bark as well as leaves. And why is that? Well, we just mentioned that they're deciduous trees, meaning they lose their leaves either during the fall or winter. So let's say hypothetically you're looking for a cottonwood in the fall or the winter and the leaves are missing. You're going to have to default with option B or door number 2 and go with the exterior bark. So now that you can identify cottonwoods, what you want is a dry dead piece, no more than 3 to 4 inches in diameter, and no longer than 2 foot in length. This one here is about 18 inches, maybe 19, 20 inches, somewhere in there. And from this one piece, we're going to construct our bearing block, spindle, and fireboard. Here's our cottonwood. This is actually a really nice piece, because if you look at that dark brown circle right there, it's on both ends. That's our heartwood, okay? Now we want to stay away from that. So the next step is to go ahead and split this piece in half. You have a couple of options with that. If you're comfortable with batoning, make sure you got a full tang knife, go ahead and baton this piece in half. If you're not comfortable batoning, grab an axe or a hatchet. But ultimately, you got a natural crack right here. Place your blade there and split this log in half. Now the log's already split, so I'm going to go ahead and stop. I'm not going to continue to drive it all the way down. I want to risk damaging my knife. So we have our 2 pieces right here that we can clean up later. But I want to stop, I want to show you, I'm using a Scorpion XL from the Pathfinder knife shop. Full tang knife, 5-inch blade. Excellent knife, very versatile, gets the job done. And most importantly, you can baton wood. Here's one of our halves. Here's the heartwood. I'll take my knife, place it on the edge of that heartwood. I'm going to split this log again. This piece forms a triangle, this white piece right here, all the way down, and that's going to be my spindle. Get my baton. I'm going to use this piece for the spindle. So what I want to do is I want to measure it, and for me, it's usually pinky to thumb in length. And there's a knot right there, so it works out perfectly. I'll go ahead and cut that off right there. We have our desired length. Now what I want to do is remove the material and round it off, crown one end and taper the other. I'm looking for it to be no smaller than the diameter of my thumb. The next thing I want to talk about is our bearing block or handhold. All I did was I cut off a piece. It's roughly the size of my hand. And then all I did from that point, take my knife and I carved an indentation in the center of that bearing block. So that all we got to do is take our spindle on the tapered end and it will fit inside that bearing block. I can apply downward pressure and burn that into my board. So now, taking my knife, what I want to do is I want to carve this down as flat as possible on both sides. And to be safe, I want it to resemble a 2x4. And that's going to be our fireboard. Now to make this easy on myself, everybody can see a knot right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut this piece right here. Makes the board a little bit smaller to work with, but I'm going to avoid that knot. There's my improvised 2x4. Might be good to go. So now we got our bearing block or handhold, our spindle, and our fireboard. The last thing I want to talk about is our bow. Now for me, it could be a straight stick, it could be a curved stick, anywhere from fingertip to elbow in length at a minimum, or fingertip to armpit in length at a maximum. Now for me, I prefer a Y branch at the end. And for the string, number 36 bank line. I can take that Y right there, tie a bowline around that end, run it down, carve a small notch right here at the bottom of my bow, and then it's dealer's choice. I can tie a half hitch, clove hitch, whatever I want, and then just take the excess, wrap it up, squeeze it, and we're good to go. At this point right here, I want to go ahead and prep my fireboard. And I want to make a small indentation of where my spindle is going to be at. So I can pick virtually anywhere on this board. I'm going to go ahead and try to start right about here. And what I do is I'll just lift the spindle, take my knife, and try and score the center part. So I know roughly that's my center. And I'll go ahead and remove some of that material so that my spindle can burn into the fireboard. It's called seating your drill. S-E-A-T-I-N-G. Seating your drill into your fireboard. Taking my spindle and my bow, place it between the string and the bow itself, the rounded end away from me. I rotate it towards me and down, so down and away. You should hear it lock. I'm going to roll it down, place it between my fingers. I can now place that inside that indentation, grab my bearing block or handhold, place it onto my tapered end, and trying to keep that spindle as vertical as possible and locking my wrist against my shin. We'll go ahead and we'll burn in to our fireboard. We're not trying to produce an ember. All we're doing is we're trying to seat that drill. I want to utilize the full length of my bow and slight downward pressure. So in reality, all you're doing is you're burning the diameter of the spindle into your board. And that should be good enough. Let's go ahead and check it out. The ends are blackened, and it looks textbook, appears good to go, so let's give it a shot. At this point right here, we're ready to go ahead and carve our notch. You can carve a square notch or a pie notch, whichever one you're comfortable with. This happens to be a pie notch. And what I'm going to do is I went ahead and scored the top and the side of where I want to remove the material. If you notice right here, it's about a 1/4 inch in width. And I'm going to remove that material to about this point right here, approximately 1/3 inside of my indentation. There's our indentation, and we carved our pie notch. And the last thing I've done is I went ahead and opened up the bottom side as well. Not too much, but just enough to allow adequate airflow. What happens is the powder that's removed from the fireboard and the spindle, they fill that notch, and around 800 degrees Fahrenheit, it should ignite and produce an ember. So I want to make sure that there's airflow getting to that ember. From here, we're good to go. All I've done is I grabbed a piece of inner bark fibers from the cottonwood tree. We'll get to this in a future video. I'm going to place that down, put my board on top of it. It's going to act as an ember catch. All that powder that we talked about will be collected. It will drop onto the ember catch, and then I can remove my board, and my ember's right there good to go to be placed inside my bundle or my bird's nest. Now we blackened the end of the spindle. I'm going to take my knife. I'm going to remove that material. That way we have fresh material to work with. Just like last time, take my spindle between my cordage and my bow, down and away. Should hear it lock. Rotate it down and hold on to it. Now I'll grab my bearing block. Place my spindle into that indentation. Take my bearing block. Place it onto my tapered end. And lock my wrist to my shin. I'm going to start off real slow, because all we're trying to do is fill that notch. Just add slight downward pressure and utilize the full length of my bow. Welcome back, that was good to go. A little bit more difficult, a little bit more complicated than last time. If you haven't already, what I want you to do is go ahead and go back and look at the simple bow drill video and check out the differences between collecting several items to make a set versus collecting one item to make a set. Ultimately, what it boils down to is possum mentality. Simply taking advantage of situations or seizing the opportunities as they present themselves, because where you're going, those opportunities or situations might not be there. Thank you for your comments, views, support. Thanks for watching. Get out in the field, have some fun, and I'll catch you next time.